Stop wasting your time and garden space on finicky root crops like carrots. Carrots require precise soil tilth, constant weeding, and consistent moisture just to produce a single harvest. If you want a permanent food source that thrives on absolute neglect, you need to plant Jerusalem artichokes, also known as sunchokes. This is not just another vegetable, it is a strategic asset for your property. In the United States, sunchokes are hardy from Zone 3 to Zone 9. They are one of the few crops that can survive a ground freeze down to -30 degrees Fahrenheit without any protection. While your carrots are rotting or being eaten by voles, the sunchoke stays crisp and dormant in the frozen earth, ready to be dug up mid-winter. Let's look at the numbers. A standard carrot bed yields about 1 pound of food per square foot. Sunchokes produce 3 to 5 pounds per square foot. They offer a higher caloric density than potatoes and contain inulin, a prebiotic fiber that does not spike blood sugar, making them an essential survival crop for diabetics. Maintenance is virtually zero. Once the stalks reach 2 feet in height, their massive leaf canopy shades out all competition. You will never have to weed this patch again. They are immune to most common North American garden pests. No deer, no rabbits, and no cabbage worms will destroy your harvest. They grow in heavy clay, sandy coastal soil, and rocky mountain terrain. The "plant once, harvest forever" promise is literal. Because these are perennials, any small tuber left in the ground during harvest will regenerate a massive new plant the following spring. You are not just planting a garden, you are installing a self-replicating food forest. This first section will show you why the sunchoke is the undisputed king of low-input, high-output farming in the USA. If you have 10 square feet of unused land on the north side of your property, you have enough space to grow 50 pounds of food every single year for the rest of your life. Before you put a single tuber in the ground, you must understand the architecture of this plant. A Jerusalem artichoke is not a low-profile root crop. It is a biological skyscraper. By mid-July, these plants will stand between 8 and 12 feet tall. This means your first priority is placement. In the Northern Hemisphere, you must plant sunchokes on the northernmost edge of your garden. If you place them in the center or on the south side, their massive leaf canopy will create a permanent shadow, killing your sun-loving tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers. Think of this patch as a functional structure. Because of their height and density, they serve as an excellent living privacy fence, or a natural windbreak. If you have a primary wind direction that batters your delicate crops, plant your sunchoke row perpendicular to that wind. They are incredibly resilient and will shield the rest of your garden from summer storms. However, remember the forever part of the title. Once they are established, they are difficult to move. Choose a permanent location where you won't need to till or build for the next decade. Now, let's talk soil. While sunchokes are famous for growing in marginal land, your goal is a high-yield harvest. They prefer a pH between 6.0 and 7.0, though they will tolerate a range from 4.5 to 8.0. If your soil is heavy American clay, common in the Midwest and South, you must ensure drainage. Sunchokes can survive a drought, but they will rot in wet feet. If your chosen site has standing water after a rain, build a raised mound 6 inches high to keep the tubers above the water table. Soil preparation is a one-time investment. Clear the area of perennial grasses and weeds like Bermuda grass or thistle. Use a broad fork or a tiller to loosen the soil to a depth of 8 to 10 inches. You do not need to buy expensive high-nitrogen fertilizers. In fact, high nitrogen is your enemy here. It will force the plant to put all its energy into massive 12-foot stalks and leaves, leaving you with tiny, stunted tubers. Instead, focus on potassium, K, and phosphorus, P. Spread 2 inches of aged compost or a well-balanced organic fertilizer like a 5-10-10 NPK over the surface and work it into the top 4 inches. Finally, consider containment. If you are worried about the plants spreading into your lawn, bury a 12-inch deep physical barrier using heavy-duty plastic root barrier or metal flashing. This keeps the rhizomes contained within your designated harvest zone. In this 4-minute window, you have transformed a patch of dirt into a high-performance engine for food production. You've addressed the height, the sunlight, the drainage, and the nutrient balance. Now, you are ready to plant. The window for planting sunchokes is narrow but critical. In the United States, you should aim for early spring, typically March or April, depending on your USDA zone. As soon as the soil is workable and no longer a block of ice, it is time to plant. Unlike potatoes, which can struggle in cold, damp soil, sunchokes are designed for this environment. First, let's talk about your seed. You don't buy seeds in a packet. You buy or save live tubers. Look for firm, heavy tubers that show no signs of shriveling or mold. If the tubers are large, bigger than a hen's egg, you can cut them into pieces to increase your yield. Every piece must have at least 2 or 3 viable eyes, or growth nodes. Use a sterilized knife. After cutting, let the pieces sit on a dry tray in a shaded area for 24 to 48 hours. This allows the cut surface to callus over, which prevents soil-borne pathogens from rotting your seed before it sprouts. Now, for the geometry of the garden. Sunchokes need space to breathe and expand. Dig a trench or individual holes 4 to 6 inches deep. If you plant too shallow, the tall stalks will fall over in the summer wind. If you plant too deep, the sprouts will waste energy reaching the surface. Space each tuber 12 to 18 inches apart within the row. If you are planting multiple rows, leave 3 feet of space between rows. This gap is not for the plants. It is for you. You will need that room to navigate the forest during harvest. Place the tuber in the hole with the most prominent eyes pointing upward toward the sky. Backfill the trench with the loose soil and compost mix you prepared in the previous step. Do not pack the soil down with your boots. Air pockets are necessary for root respiration. Lightly firm the surface with your hands. Immediately after planting, give the bed a deep watering. You want the soil to settle around the tuber to eliminate large air gaps that could dry out the roots. However, this is the only time you will water until the plants emerge. Overwatering in the early spring can trigger rot. Patience is required. Sunchokes are slow starters compared to radishes or lettuce. Depending on soil temperature, it will take 14 to 21 days for the first purple-green sprouts to break the surface. Do not dig them up to check on them. As long as the soil stays moist, but not soggy, they are working. Once they reach 6 inches in height, their root system is established, and they become nearly indestructible. By mid-June, your sunchokes will enter their exponential growth phase. In the American South and Midwest, this is when the heat intensifies, and your management strategy must shift from establishing roots to supporting massive biomass. These plants are about to transform from small sprouts into a dense 10-foot-tall wall of vegetation. If you do nothing, they will survive. But if you follow these 3 steps, your harvest weight will double. Step 1 is thermal regulation through mulching. As the ambient temperature rises, the soil temperature follows. While the leaves love the sun, the tubers need cool, moist earth to expand. Once your plants reach 12 inches in height, apply a 3 to 4 inch layer of organic mulch. The best materials for this are weed-free wheat straw, shredded wood chips, or alfalfa hay. This mulch layer serves three purposes. It suppresses 95% of competing weeds, it reduces soil moisture evaporation by 60%, and it slowly breaks down to provide organic matter. Do not use grass clippings that have been treated with broadleaf herbicides, as sunchokes are highly sensitive to chemical residues. Step 2 is hilling for structural integrity. When the stalks reach 3 feet in height, they become top-heavy. Use a garden hoe to pull 6 to 8 inches of soil from the aisles up against the base of the stalks. This is called hilling. This extra soil depth encourages more lateral roots to develop and provides a heavy anchor against summer thunderstorms. In high-wind states like Kansas or Oklahoma, hilling is not enough. You must install a support system. Drive heavy-duty T-posts at the ends of your rows and run a high-tension polytwine at the 4-foot and 7-foot levels. This Florida weave-style support prevents the stalks from snapping or lodging during high-velocity wind events. Step 3 is water and nutrient management. Although sunchokes are famously drought-tolerant, they are not waterproof. If you want large, juicy tubers rather than small, woody ones, they need 1 inch of water per week during the peak of July and August. If the leaves start to flag or wilt in the afternoon, they are stressed. A simple drip irrigation line or a soaker hose buried under the mulch is the most efficient delivery method. Regarding nutrients, avoid high nitrogen boosters now. If you see the plants growing too fast with pale, weak stems, apply a top dressing of bone meal or wood ash. The phosphorus and potassium will strengthen the cellular walls of the stalks and prepare the plant for tuberization in the fall. Lastly, watch for powdery mildew. In humid regions like the East Coast, the dense canopy can restrict airflow. If you see a white, flour-like dusting on the lower leaves, prune away the bottom 12 inches of foliage to increase circulation. Do not panic. Powdery mildew rarely kills the plant, but it can reduce the photosynthetic capacity. By late August, you will see the first flower buds. These miniature sunflowers are a signal that the plant is shifting its energy from vertical growth to tuber expansion. Do not prune the flowers. Let them bloom. They attract essential pollinators and signify the home stretch of the growing season. In late October or November, a dramatic change will sweep through your sunchoke patch. As the temperatures drop below 28 degrees Fahrenheit, the lush green canopy will turn brittle, brown, and seemingly dead. To an amateur, the garden looks finished. To the expert farmer, this is the starting gun. Do not harvest your tubers before the first hard frost. If you dig them up in September, they will be bland, starchy, and may cause digestive discomfort. The frost is a biological catalyst. It triggers the plant to convert its complex inulin starches into fructose. This process mellows the flavor, turning a woody tuber into a sweet, nutty delicacy that tastes like a cross between an artichoke heart and a water chestnut. Phase 1. The cleanup. Once the stalks are completely brown, use a pair of heavy-duty loppers or a brush hog to cut them down. Leave 4 to 6 inches of the stalk protruding from the soil. This is not for the plant's health, it is a marker. In midwinter, when the ground is covered in snow, these stumps will be your only map to where the food is buried. Do not pull the stalks out of the ground. Pulling them can dislodge the tubers and expose them to surface ice, causing them to freeze, thaw, and rot. Phase 2. The waiting period. After cutting the stalks, wait at least 10 to 14 days before your first harvest. This allows the skins of the tubers to set or toughen slightly, though they will always remain thinner than a potato skin. Phase 3. The mechanics of the dig. Sunchokes do not grow in a neat, compact cluster like a russet potato. They radiate outward from the central stem. If you drive a standard shovel straight down next to the stalk, you will slice 30% of your crop in half. Instead, use a broad fork or a long-tined garden pitchfork. Start your dig 18 inches away from the central stump. Push the tines deep into the soil and gently pry upward. As the soil heaves, you will see the gold appearing, a massive cluster of knobby tubers entangled in the root mass. Shake the root ball vigorously to loosen the earth. Phase 4. The living pantry. This is the most critical advice in this video. The ground is your best refrigerator. Sunchokes have almost no protective corky skin. If you dig them all at once and put them in a root cellar, they will shrivel and turn into rubber within 2 weeks. Only dig what you plan to eat over the next 7 days. If you live in a northern climate where the ground freezes solid like concrete, you must apply winter insulation. Cover your harvest row with 12 inches of loose autumn leaves, straw, or hay, and weigh it down with a tarp. This thick insulation layer traps the geothermal heat of the earth, keeping the soil soft and diggable even in January. You can literally walk out into a blizzard, peel back the tarp and mulch, and harvest fresh, crisp tubers while the rest of your garden is dormant. This is true food security. You are no longer dependent on the grocery store supply chain. Your pantry is 6 inches under your feet. The final advantage of the Sunchoke is the sheer return on investment. In a standard American garden, 1 pound of seed tubers will yield approximately 20 to 25 pounds of edible food. This 1:20 ratio is nearly double that of most potato varieties. If you dedicate a 100 square foot patch to this crop, you are securing over 2,000 pounds of food for your family year after year with 0 additional seed costs. Storage and handling. Because sunchokes lack the thick, suberized skin of a potato, they lose moisture rapidly through evaporation. If you must store them in the kitchen, place them in a perforated plastic bag in the refrigerator's crisper drawer. They will stay crisp for about 2 weeks. Do not wash them until the moment you are ready to cook. The residual dirt acts as a natural preservative, preventing the thin skin from oxidizing and turning gray. Ensuring the forever harvest. This is where the crop earns its name. You do not need to replant next spring. When you harvest in the winter, the seconds, tubers smaller than a golf ball or those that snap off during digging, will naturally remain in the soil. These volunteers are your next crop. In April, they will sprout exactly where the old ones stood. To maintain soil health, simply top-dress the patch with 1 inch of fresh compost every spring. If the patch becomes too dense after 3 or 4 years, use a shovel to remove 50% of the emerging sprouts in May to ensure the remaining plants have enough light to produce large tubers. In the kitchen. Treat sunchokes like a high-performance potato. They can be roasted with olive oil and rosemary, mashed with butter, or sliced raw into salads for a texture identical to water chestnuts. Because they contain inulin rather than starch, they are a slow-burn fuel. They won't spike your blood sugar, making them the ultimate survival food for sustained energy. The warning: sunchokes are persistent. If you decide to move your garden, you must dig every single fragment out of the earth, or they will return. But for the practical homesteader, this persistence is a feature, not a bug. You have created a self-sustaining, winter-hardy, calorie-dense system. You planted once. Now you harvest forever.